we bring this meeting to, start conducting this meeting today. May 24th, 2017, start time is 9:02. Elbert County Board of County Commissioners. Again, good morning, everyone. Rachel, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Thayer?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
He is absent today. He will be out for about a week. So, hope he's having fun with Lake Powell. So anyway, at this time, Pastor Jim Kimbrough, how are you? If you could do the prayer and the pledge.
Let's pray. God in heaven, it is our honor today to invite you into this meeting, to ask you to watch over the men and women that make decisions that affect our lives. We pray, God, too, that you would bless their families, their children, their wives, grandchildren, husbands. God, would you just intervene today, give wisdom, grant that the decisions not only help us as citizens, but they bring you honor, God. God, we understand that everything takes place because you are in charge. We are not in control of our destinies, you are. We are not the ones who have set everything into motion and created everything for your glory. You have done that. So God, we submit to you today. God, we also pray for the men and women who are the first responders who have put their lives on the line for us, who are in harm's way many times so that we can sleep at night. Would you protect them? Care for their families. Watch over their children. Strengthen their marriages, God. The toll it takes caring for us and watching over us takes a toll on them, so God, help them. God, for our men and women that serve in our jail and care for the prisoners and the men and women who are incarcerated, they need your help today. Care for them. God, we're also mindful today that there are a lot of men and women who are working hard in our county, who are doing everything they can, and their money is gone before the month is gone. And they're needing help. And so, God, for those men and women, help us as a community to come around them, strengthen their hearts, provide for them. So, God, there's big decisions that have to be made today, but they affect individuals. And so we ask, God, that you would help in these decisions. We pray all this because we know you love us and care for us, and you demonstrated it when Jesus died for us. We thank you for him. Oh, we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good prayer. Okay. Approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is a little different with two of us, huh, Grant?
Yeah, maybe we'll agree.
All right, elected officials, department head, staff reports. Do we have any?
We probably need to do the consent agenda first.
Oh, consent agenda. Thanks. Look right past it. Consent agenda, do we have anything we need to pull from?
I don't think so. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. I just want to point out items 4 and 5 are related to the wind farm project down around Simla. We've already received a significant amount of building permit money that the treasurer will probably address here in a little bit. But Part of the consent agenda is the approval of a couple of agreements with the wind farm folks. And there'll be an additional set of building permits that relate to the building of the power line out there. I restate, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, elected officials, department head and staff reports. Do we have anything? Nothing? Okay. I would like to take a second to thank folks. I don't know how many of the staff we have in here, but this has been an extremely busy 2 weeks. Kind of a taxing couple of weeks, just warm weather and just a lot of issues we've been dealing with here and there. So I wanted to tell you all, thank you for stepping up. We've had a lot of people kind of step up and have to take different positions, extra work, a lot of extra work. So we appreciate it. Anyway, thanks to the staff and everybody involved. So,
Is this where you want to mention it?
yeah, I will. And at this point, I believe just a comment. We're coming to public comment, and I don't know what will come up. At this point, I don't believe our county manager will be returning. We will have more information to follow in follow-up meetings. So, just wanted to make that point for today.
Mr. Chairman, does that mean that we will probably be in a position very soon to start evaluating and perhaps identifying a potential future manager?
Depending on dates, yes, we will. So, all right. Any other comments? Elected officials? Open public comment. If you see, I don't know if you got a chance to look at our new agenda. If anybody downloaded the agenda from the internet, it's you have to thank Chris for that. It's a neat design. It's pretty good. It has everything kind of incorporated in it. So, with the open public comment, it's regarding issues or items that are unrelated to topics that are in discussion or action items. You'll have the option to comment on those individual items when they come up. But at this point, if you have anything else, if there's any other comment on things not associated to actions or discussion. Pardon? If we have a list, if we have signings? Marlene?
We're happy that you keep us organized here.
Thank you. Okay, first one, Tim Miller. Go to the next one. Okay, Mr. Brown.
Those were on the list last night.
Those are, yeah, those.
Oh,
So we don't have a list.
We don't have a list.
yeah, and I'm first.
All right.
Then your first, your name,
Shelley Rubin.
Shelley.
Can you
Please.
repeat your last name, please?
Shelley Rowdy, 601 Coyote Trail.
Thank you.
I'm generally loud enough, I don't usually need a microphone. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to start with a quote. If Grant Thayer has his way, this will be done next week. Where does this quote stem from? It's the statement that the CDS director made during the Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday, May 16th. The premise for the statement was that the CDS director was presenting a new zoning concept referred to as the Economic Development Zoning Overlay, also known as EDZ. And this I can talk plenty loud enough without one of these. Right, this statement was provided in response to anticipating timing for this initiative. During the presentation, the slides also included a pending application for development for the Independence development, essentially implying this development is going forward. I have several concerns I'd like to share with the BOCC this morning. It's alarming to me that what can only assume was an off-the-cuff statement, such as the quote I just shared, is made during a formal public meeting. As a citizen of Elbert County, I would expect the collective BOCC, CDS, and Planning Commission conduct the appropriate diligence, including state statute, regulation, cost-benefit analysis, residential impacts, traffic studies, traffic impacts, etc., be completed well in advance of any new zoning overlay being introduced. Wouldn't it behoove Elbert County to clean up a bit of the zoning confusion and inconsistencies before introducing a new concept? Additionally, I find it extremely disturbing that the implication such statement makes. Out of respect for the BOCC, I'm going to assume that the EDZ concept has been thoroughly vetted by all BOCC members and may be an initiative that Commissioner Thayer is indeed driving. However, the speed by which it is implied that this new EDZ is to move forward is that it would be virtually impossible to perform all required diligence successfully. The second and even more concerning to me is that a formal presentation was shared that included an outline of a development that has a pending application and is yet to go to the Planning Commission for approval or denial and therefore has not crossed the desk of the BOCC. If we citizens are not at liberty to discuss pending application, how is it acceptable that CDS can deliver a presentation including a development that has a pending application? I'm well aware of the legality, or I should say illegality, of the zoning for the Independence development and find it alarming and significantly biased on the side of the developer that CDS would include such development in a presentation. Lastly, the question was asked as to whether or not the EDZ was in conjunction with the comprehensive plan currently being developed. And the response was no, and that this was independent of that plan. I feel this is extremely premature and would ask the BOCC to consider the investment of time and money going into the comprehensive plan, and only after the completion of that comp plan, which is, by design is intended to develop a plan for both residential and economic growth, then determine if this new EDZ is even warranted. I fully understand what the concept of the EDZ is intended to achieve, given the low inventory options of potential revenue generating land in Elbert County. However, the very basis of the comprehensive plan is to develop a growth plan for the county for the next 10 to 15 years. Shouldn't this be the guidance in determining economic development opportunities as opposed to trying to rapidly create some new zoning concept? Obviously, I don't have the background to this concept other than what was shared at the Planning Commission, and I shudder to think that there would be any personal gains to be made from the introduction of a new EDZ. However, I respectfully request the review of the communication practices and thoroughly vet the process by which presentations are released to the community. Thank you for the time this morning.
Ma'am, your presentation was a little confusing. You were talking about independence, I think, and also the EDZ. Those two things aren't related in any way. And the other thing is, I don't know anything about independence except the rumor mill because we haven't been presented with an application yet.
Understood, but I respectfully would disagree in that my review, when I was watching that presentation, the second or third slide had independence outlined as part of the contributing arterials for increased traffic.
Oh, okay.
So by that, it was introduced in that presentation, and you may want to review that, and maybe that's what escaped without anyone seeing that first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liz Heckman.
I signed up, but I'm already on your agenda.
Okay.
I'm Elizabeth Hickman, Dr. Hickman with Centennial Mental Health Center.
Doctor, how are you?
Yeah,
Oh,
good
we
to be
have-
here.
We have a time for you.
Right, is, okay?
And at
And
this point, I'll call you up, okay?
excellent, excellent, yeah, if
We'll
someone
finish
else
the
is on the
public
call.
comments, it's just a couple minutes away. I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Marlene?
I'll try the microphone. If it blasts, then I'll go without it. Marlene Groves, Ridge Road. I want to thank our road people. I want to call out attention to that. The last couple of weeks in particular, there's been a lot of comments about the problems with our roads in Elbert County. And I think a couple of points. I don't want to feel like a bad citizen or have any other citizen feel bad when we say, oh my gosh, the roads suck. And we use that word because they do, sort of. They're sometimes dangerous, and And we have to have conversations about it. I've stopped in the last 2-3 days every time I've seen a road grader, and I talked with them, and I thank them because I know that they are limited with the resources that they have, which is basically, you know, their equipment. And I wanted to make sure that they understood any comment that comes from any citizen about our road is not directed ever to that blade operator, to the employee. In speaking today with one of the operators, he said he's been working for the county for now almost 20 years. And for 20 years, he's been asking for some of the same things. One of the biggest struggles with being a road blade operator, according to this gentleman, who I think has plenty of experience, was that they are called off of the roads to do insignificant other work that takes them off of the road. I would say as a county, we need to revisit when we pull drivers and blade operators off of our roads after snowstorms, rain, stuff like that. We can't do that because road safety should then be number one. So I think it's important for us to continue with this discussion. I also read the 89-page, 10-year-old transportation study over the weekend, light reading for everybody, but it's good and relevant information. The number one goal, do you know what it was? It was to come up with a plan, a total plan, so we could say comprehensive plan, whatever you want to call it, that included funding on how to fix our roads. So my question to you is, after 10 years, has the county achieved goal 1? I asked Chris that yesterday. He said no. You better start working on that goal. So I'm not here to be negative. We have to address roads. It's not our operators. We have to take leadership and plan for how to fix them. Thank you.
Just as a comment on that, you're absolutely right. We are, as most of you are well aware, we are in the process of trying to seek a new public works leader. We are also, as we mentioned earlier, there might be some other staff changes. We have had a preliminary report from our consulting engineers with respect to paved roads, which are not what you're talking about, I understand that. But we're also moving forward on trying to figure out how to prioritize our other roads. And we can call them mud roads, we can call them gravel roads, we can call them dirt roads, we can call them whatever it depends on the day. I appreciate your comment about 10 years. It's well taken. We've been here, what, 120 days? And no, so what we've done, one of the things I hope that the citizens recognize that there's, the three of us have layered in a layer of planning and trying to figure out how to resolve these issues. And, you know, I can make excuses. There's budget issues. There's all of these other things. But the whole point is that if you don't have a plan, you can't implement it. And we're in the process of trying to figure out what is the best approach. And your comments are well taken. We're not going to argue with you because you're right. But we're, I hate to keep using this excuse, we're working on it.
And I think the employees are frustrated too in that regard, so,
Oh, sure.
thank you.
We have to determine a way to analyze our gravel roads. We've got a specific process on how to analyze pavement. We need to, what we're working on now is how to analyze our gravel roads and identify areas where improvements, immediate improvements need to be made. So that's one of the steps we're trying to take.
And processes to, because if you've got any kind of a geological background, you'll know that the soils in our county are variable.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those soils, as you use them to make roads, have a different set of issues. And by golly, it's not just sending a blade operator and rolling in the ditches. We've got, if we're going to do this, we've got to figure out a plan.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
Well, my name is on the list. Jackie Tugwell?
Yes, Jackie, there you are, missed you.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you. My name is Jackie Tugwell. I'm at 603 Coyote Trail. Okay. So there is a well-known proposed high-density cluster development that has been currently mentioned in the past week or so by county officials. It could not have been any citizens, as we have been told numerous times that until it's presented as an official application on the agenda to the Planning Commission and then go on to the BOCC, we cannot mention it. I guess this rule does not apply to county employees or elected officials, as I witnessed the proposed Independence development referenced on the Economic Development Overlay Area District presentation at the last Planning Commission meeting on May 16th. The reason that I mention this is because I am concerned that the county is unaware, that not only of its Elbert County zoning regulations, but of the Colorado Revised Statute regarding planned unit developments. There have been phrases thrown around, directly said, and put in writing which are completely false, like an entitlement is an asset or vested right that is attached to the land, or entitlements are permanent and do not expire, or a property owner is entitled. These terms have led many citizens to believe that a certain development is a done deal. This is misleading, if not completely unethical, because it is completely just untrue. The county has a responsibility to know the correct regulation and laws and answer its citizens with the truth. I am sure the county is not trying to play favorites to a developer, right? So let me leave you with this. Colorado Revised Statutes 24-68104. Vested property rights duration termination. A property right which has been vested as provided for in this article shall remain vested for a period of 3 years. This vesting period shall not be extended by any amendments to a site-specific development plan unless expressly authorized by the local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Once we finish the public comment, I'd ask if Kyle could come up and kind of state whatever she said at those meetings. But let's finish the public comment
Well,
first.
we'll finish the comment, but, yeah, you're determining a relationship between independence and this overlay, this business overlay.
I can explain what it is.
Okay. We're not gonna go through discussion. What we'll do is, do we have any more people who, have nobody on the list? And Jackie, I didn't mean to miss you, I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay. I didn't do that intentionally. If there's anyone else? No, if not, Kyle, do you want to?
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kyle Fenner, Director of CDS. It is true I gave the EDZ presentation to the Planning Commission, and it was the same presentation that I delivered to you. In that presentation, there was a slide, at least one slide, that referenced Central Water and Central Sewer and where their locations were in the county when we were talking about commercial development and some of the needs that a lot of commercial development requires. In that, I provided circles around Spring Valley Ranch, Kiowa, the town of, or community of Elbert, Elizabeth, and then there was a yellow circle around the land that is being proposed as Independence. We did not talk details about Independence, and Independence has been given publicly as a concept plan. So it's not a secret. So it isn't like this word that can't be used, but it's a hearing item that can't be discussed in the elements of the hearing. So it isn't a secret. I didn't disclose anything that hasn't been disclosed in public already via the concept plan. So that's primarily, if there were any other references in there, that would have been it. It doesn't have any relationship to the EDZ. My recollection is that I was trying to tie it to where we have Central Water and Central Sewer and where we might have it someday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
At this point, what we will do is, we will review the presentation.
Can I make one comment, please?
This is not a debate.
Ma'am, this is really not a place for, we didn't want the discussion, but what we will do, we will review the presentation and see. We've been given the concept plan. Okay,
Understood.
all right, so we have seen, and we are aware of that, and that was pretty detailed, I thought, okay? And actually, some of us have seen it twice. So what we will do is we will review the presentation and look at what was presented, and then probably present something in the
I'd like
next
to just
meeting.
ensure it's the same presentation because it was outlined by red borders equivalent to all of the other water districts.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is my only comment.
No,
Okay, review it, okay?
and then I'd like to make a comment, asking the county attorney, when and if independence is presented, would you make a statement at that time with respect to the 3-year vesting period?
And that's when it's presented.
That's in the process of being reviewed
Right.
by outside counsel. As soon as we get an opinion in, I can provide that to the commissioners. I would not normally make any statement in a planning commission form, only in a VOCC.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
We got everybody covered here? Okay, all right. On discussion, any more comments? You shoot one last time? All right, good. On to discussion. First, we have Dr. Heckman. Oh, you, sorry, I apologize for.
That's okay, I was getting myself inserted in the wrong place. My apologies to you.
All right. First of all, thank you for allowing me and some of my team to come and present to you. I am the executive director of Centennial Mental Health Center. My name is Elizabeth, or Liz, Hickman. And I have come around to all of the boards of county commissioners in our Centennial catchment area periodically. I don't recall having spoken to either of you two gentlemen before, but I think I mean, it's probably been 1.5 years since I've been here. Anyway, Centennial Mental Health Center, for those of you that may not know, is a 10-county mental health center. And by the way, I have some extra copies of the information sheet that I gave to the commissioners. If any of you want, I'll just set them down there for extras. Centennial serves the 10 Northeast counties. Back when I started as the executive director in 2008, Elbert County was still, I believe, considered under the federal designation in the rural zone, so I used to just say the 10 Northeast rural and frontier counties. Now I have to add, except Elbert, which is urban now. So welcome to that stage of community development. Centennial has a broad array of mental health and substance use disorder treatment services. We are also, through our partnership with Northeast Behavioral Health, part of the Colorado Crisis Services, and so we provide emergency mobile crisis to DHS, jails, schools, and in conjunction with law enforcement, even to individual homes if necessary. So we have quite an array of services that we provide. On the flip side of the presentation there gives you a whole kind of bullet list of services that we provide to adults, youth, family, really people of all ages, and a lot of the criminal justice work and prevention work as well that we do around suicide prevention, mental health first aid, which is a broad, kind of like the equivalent of an American Red Cross kind of program for mental health. So our efforts are considerable in Elbert County and beyond. I brought with me today our two regional directors for our South region, which includes Elbert, Lincoln, Kit Carson, and Cheyenne County. If you just kind of stand up or wave, Christy Groth is our Regional Operations Director, and Tamara McNay is our Regional Clinical Director. So these ladies are in charge of clinical and operations programming for our 4 counties, including Elbert County, and are the best local contact, but I've given you my card, and our website should give you additional information as well. The main reason that we try to get around periodically is that sometimes our services kind of fade into the background unless you're one of the individuals like a healthcare provider, an emergency department, or law enforcement, where we interface pretty routinely. But people in the community are often the first link to services for people that need them. We participated in a study with the High Plains Research Network just a few years back and confirmed what many of us have kind of known for years, that friends, family, fellow Rotarians, fellow church members, any of those folks out there in our lives are often the one that serves as kind of a gentle nudge when we are appearing to be out of our usual mood and ability to function in our lives. So just that nudge at the right time can get someone into treatment and recovery happens. So it's mostly our community efforts and education, even to the commissioners, is to remind you all that you're all a part of that, even if you don't have a role day to day. So in some of our communities we have, I don't think Jerry Spear was able to be here, we had reached out to her and encouraged her to come, hope that she could come. County DHS departments are one of our regular partners in terms of referrals and coordinating care. Elbert DHS also uses other providers, so it's not specific or unique to Centennial, but we participate with them in a lot of community efforts, including but not limited to Early Childhood Council in Elbert County, and also the Interagency Organizing Group, which is a state-supported program to bring together all providers and people that have impact on youth, and particularly youth at risk, identified either through criminal justice, through DHS, or the schools, or any other facet as well. So they're good partners with us. We do a lot of work with the Elbert Sheriff's Department and our jail-based services, which is one of the ones listed on page 2 of that little info page. Includes jail-based behavioral services, where again, under a state grant for all 10 of our counties and any of the jails that are big enough to house people more than overnight or for a few hours. We have on-site services 1 to 4 days a week, depending on the size and the need, to provide services to individuals that are incarcerated that have substance use disorder as a part of their life picture. They may have mental health as well, but for that particular grant, they have to have a substance use diagnosis. We're also just in the implementation phases of some expansion of a separate state grant program that will additionally help mental health services in the jail and in the community around criminal justice populations. So we're excited about that. So, do you have any questions? I have one other item to touch on, but I want to make room for questions as well.
I just appreciate your presentation.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Excuse me. Yes, we are. Sorry.
You're
Yeah.
very active in the schools, and I have to say, being in that IOG group, I'm finding out that the prevention efforts have been rather successful out here.
Very good. Yeah.
I'm hearing that through the sheriff's office and through the schools, so it is helping.
That's wonderful to hear. We've always had a bit of a foothold in prevention in our Centennial programming. I came back to Northeast Colorado. I was born and raised in Yuma County. Came out back in 2001. And at that time, we would do some occasional community events, participate in health fairs, but we really didn't have a full-fledged prevention program. And through a lot of effort locally, but as well, we've really taken advantage of some state available funding, and sometimes county or specific, like probation, youth probation funding. We braid funding just amazingly, to continue to expand those prevention programs. So, you know, thanks to sometimes private foundations, many state-related grants through various departments at the state level, and again, local funding, we've really dramatically expanded prevention, and we believe in it. So but it's always good to hear that it makes a difference.
We're very supportive. The sheriff, the schools, they're very supportive.
Fantastic. Very good to hear. Very good to hear. So I'm going to just leave you with one ask. I think Centennial Mental Health had sent out a letter to the commissioners just not too long ago. I believe it was since you were on board, yeah, those of you that are new to the Board of Commissioners. Centennial's Board of Directors is created with representation from each county. And we had, about a year ago or so, our last commissioner representative was Commissioner Dorr. When she resigned, we no longer had a commissioner representative from Elbert County, and up to date. We also had our community rep had moved out of county, and we try to keep our community representatives living within the county if possible. So at the moment, we are without specific Elbert County representation on our board of directors. So many of the boards of county commissioners around our 10-county area have one of their own that they are that has interest, that has a supportive side for mental health, behavioral health services. So they may participate directly. The bylaws of our directors also allows for that commissioner representative to be someone that you delegate. It can be someone that works for the county or just someone in the community that you as a board of commissioners believe would really represent you know, your interests and help guide and provide governance to my board. So I don't expect an immediate answer on that, but please do think about that. Again, whether it might be one of the three of you or possibly a designated member. Elbert County has had both over the years that I've been with Centennial. Sometimes commissioners, sometimes someone in the community. So we would really appreciate it. And if there's any other community members, we're on the search. I know that we're going to make some contact with some of our partners in the schools, because I would love to have a public school representative on my board, and at the present time we don't. So let me know, give me a call or send me an email if there's a particular individual that you'd like me to reach out to and consider.
Prior to speaking with the other member of the board, it would probably be me.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Okay.
We will put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Make that formal. I believe that's what we'll probably have to do.
That would be fantastic. We'd love to have you.
And I'll confirm that and follow up.
Once confirmed, just get in touch and we'll get you totally on board. We might, if we can get you on board in time, it would be a July meeting, would be next meeting. Our board doesn't meet in August. We take 1 month off. So depending on the timing of your meeting to get affirmed, we could have you join July or September.
July what?
It'll be the second Thursday. It's always the second Thursday. So thank you very much. We'd love to have you. Okay. And ladies, did I miss anything? Are there anything that you want to highlight real briefly and for things that you're doing right now in Elbert County or trying to develop further? I just did kind of the overview. Okay.
Prevention-wise, our summer groups for youth are starting up in June for prevention and catching risks.
Ma'am, I don't mean to be rude,
Yep,
but you need
you
to
might.
go up there so
Yeah.
it can get on the record.
Yeah, they do a recording too.
Just talking about prevention, we just wanted to note that our summer groups are starting to catch youth at risk, to do therapeutic groups to bring the youth together from our mentoring program, as well as youth through the IOG through Connections for Families. So.
Thank you very much. So again, just thank you very much for your time and interest, and any of you in the audience, feel free to reach out to me or any of us if you have any further questions.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Public comment. Next item, presentation by Elizabeth Parks and Rec, Mr. Mike Barney. No,
Sounds like there was a wreck.
I guess there was. Okay, well, if he shows up, we'll check. And, next one, establishing a stabilization reserve fund. Rick, how are you?
Rick Pettit, Elbert County Treasurer. I'm here today to make a recommendation regarding the $4,276,622 building permit fees that we got in from the wind farm. And part of the recommendation is that we set aside 10% of that amount and put it into a line item for wind farm inspection fees, so that we're paying for all the inspections and everything that have to be done on the wind farm. We've set aside that money and to pay it out of that line item. These building fees are fund 10, general fund fees, so all the money has to stay in the general fund. The other recommendation is setting up a contingency fund of $300,000. So in case there are any unexpected items or emergencies, that we do have some funds set aside for that. And then a stabilization fund, which we've talked to the accountants and the auditors, I think. And that is to set up, put in that stabilization fund, $3,548,960, and to create that line item with a resolution putting on some restrictions on that, so the future commissioners or whoever down the road just can't automatically just spend that money there, because we need to be starting to set up reserves for when the economy goes the opposite way, so that we're not in the position we were in the past of not having any reserves. And that's what led to the 4-day work weeks and the 36 hours, where they had to reduce staff or hours and staff to continue to operate. The reason for the stabilization fund is to hopefully level out that, so that down the road, when the economy does turn, we do get less revenue in. We've got some money to operate at the levels we were without having to decrease, what the county is doing. So that's the recommendation that I'm making to the board.
I've got a couple questions for you, Rick, if it's okay.
Okay.
Is that when we I'm the liaison from the county commissioners with Rick Pettit's office, so I've had some discussions with them. You're thinking of having some thresholds or some triggers or something like that that would be part of the resolution that would come to us at the next meeting that would pertain to the strategic reserve fund?
Yes, I think we need to have some triggers or something in there, so that, if it isn't this board or down the road, there's triggers in there of when these funds can be used, rather than, using them for a one-time project or hiring people now and then we can't sustain, the payments of salaries and things like that. I think we need to start doing long-term planning, so that when the economy turns or we have an emergency or something like that, we've got funds set aside, so that we're not scrambling and trying to just hang on like we have in the past.
So if I understand what you're saying is that when we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, And we'll have the resolution at that time that'll authorize you to do everything you've just said. And within that resolution will be the restrictions, the triggers, thresholds, or whatever we designate them to be. Is that how you think?
Yes, I think that's what we need to do. I mean, that's the conversations, I've had with Kyrie and finance and, other people on how we think we need to proceed. We just need to, define those parameters and bring it to the board.
I would sure like to see it next time.
Okay, we'll do that.
Rick, on the emergency reserve fund, you mentioned that.
There's a contingency fund that we're proposing, 300,000 of putting that in there, and then, as we get other funds, maybe building that up. But right now, we really don't have a contingency fund in the general fund, where we've got money in case of emergency. So it's just trying to limit the use of these funds, so we're just not automatically going out and spending them.
That emergency fund, would that be considered for events like major snowstorms, like stuff like that? Is that?
Well, I mean, we need to look at it because it's a Fund 10 fund,
So it can't be used?
No, it can't be used for like road and bridge, or, I guess if there was some kind of emergency, then we could transfer funds or something like that. But generally, you just can't use it for, road and bridge or something else like that, because
But the idea of it is it's non-budgeted item that's a surprise, basically.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, it's a non-budget item that would come up, and, if something happened, to a building or something like that, if there was, heaven forbid, a tornado or something, and we needed the, temporary funds so we could operate, it would be there.
I guess my only thoughts are on that emergency reserve fund. I guess I'm good with, putting the money away and having triggers and thresholds for it. And I think that's neat. I'm fully aware of that and fully agree on that. On the emergency reserve fund?
Well, it's not really, it's a contingency fund.
Contingency fund. I guess my position, I would like to see triggers there too. Because what I don't want to see is that we put ourselves in a position to where it's something we can count on. And I kind of reference, and I'll use road bridge, I'll use like an emergency, like a major snowstorm. If I looked at something, now this wouldn't pertain to this, just as an example. In a major snowstorm, we'd look at other things, or a major event, a major flood. We'd look at state resources, we'd look at federal funding, we'd look at every other option prior to resorting to our contingency fund.
Well, part of that, like on the contingency fund, like the last flood that we had, and was in partner with FEMA and things like that. The problem is we need to have money set aside so we can work on those projects, because getting the money in from FEMA and everything is not a quick process. So, I mean, we're going to be having to react and do things until we get that reimbursement from FEMA.
So in that vein, what you're thinking is you could use that money and then it'd be repaid when the FEMA money come in or something?
Right. And, and I think that's something we need to start looking at for some of the other funds, like Road and Bridge is a contingency fund also, so that we have something set aside. So if there are emergencies or whatever.
We call them supplementals. And
Yeah.
there were specific criteria where you could access supplemental funding, and now it's kind of.
Right, and that's, I think part of, like Grant was talking about, plans for planning down the road, and that's something I think we need to do with the finances and things like that, for reserves, contingency reserves or whatever. We need to come up with those plans and get things in place, which we have not had in the past.
Okay, good.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Great point. But yeah, you're going to have public comment.
So like right now?
No, wait till he sits down and then it'll be your turn.
Okay.
So,
All right, so it'll be on next meeting's agenda.
yes, we'll get it on the next week agenda, and we'll get those trigger points and stuff in there.
That sounds great.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Public comment.
I just have a question or
Mm-hmm.
two comments.
Ma'am, name?
Dana Correll,
Okay. Address?
600 Coyote Trail.
And then you need to direct the questions at us, and then we,
Thank you. Okay. So what if you take a bit of that, why couldn't you do both? Have some untouchable funds and then have some that in an emergency you could get access to? Could you do both?
yeah, I can respond to that. Rick and I have talked about that at length, and maybe you didn't quite catch what he was saying there. 300,000 has been put aside for the emergency contingency, whatever the other 3.5 million though, and I'm rounding off, is going to be considered sacred. And the only
Untouchable.
time well, not untouchable, but extraordinary circumstances, it needs thresholds, justification, I guess is the right word I'm looking for. We don't want it to be just all of a sudden, we see a train of gravel coming from California here, and then all the money's gone.
Right. Right. And then this is sort of backwards, but where is the wind? I was unaware that there was a wind farm.
Oh, that's a big project. It's on, what is it, about 800 million or something like that project that's down around Simla. And it's going to be going, I don't know if you know that part of the county, but from Simla, Matheson area, basically directionally towards State Highway 86. there'll
And
be
it
a-
is up and running?
It's started. It just started. It was only authorized, what, about 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago, something like that. And we got the big check here, and I'm going to defer to Rick on that because he's the one that is custodian of it. And just for the wind turbines themselves. Now, this next thing that we approved earlier on the consent agenda is for the power line that goes basically from there up to Deer Trail.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Rick, did you want to mention that when you got, when the check come in, or?
Anyway, it's probably been about a month or so since we got that check in, maybe not quite that long, but essentially it was the agreement with Wind Farm on how much they would pay for the building permits, and they've paid that up front. They are starting some construction out there. They haven't, I don't think they've started on the towers, but they're doing some work on their substation and getting that ready and things like that. But they have paid all their building permit fees up front. So even if they, something happened and they didn't complete it, we've still got our building permit fees.
Just as an advice, I live up in that part of the county, yes, and I went down there and had a look over the weekend, and they've started dirt work, so the project's initiated. And I don't know sequentially how things are done for wind towers, but there's equipment everywhere.
That's great, we've got the wind for it.
All right.
Any more comments? Okay, next item. Restructure of the county website.